Hi, Jesse. How are you doing today?
I'm well. I'm excited to be here talking to you.
Awesome. Same here. I'm very excited to talk to you. It's actually going to be my first video on YouTube. And then I have been, constantly putting content on LinkedIn, but I'm very excited to add this in my social media channels that I'm going to start a YouTube channel now, which is interesting. Without further ado, what I was thinking is we can quickly introduce ourselves and, you can tell us about yourself, who you are, how long you have been doing what you have been doing, and how was your college life. Because what me and another co-founder, what we do is we represent a lot of Indian international students, and I would say, the whole community of international students, and we connect with them, talk to them about their mental life, about their how they have been keeping up, and about how they have been holding living far from their families. So
Great.
tell us a bit about how was your college life, and you had any international student who were your friends, or your group mates, or were they in your class, and how different do you think the education system is now as from when you were in university or in college?
Okay, yeah, for sure. So I started my undergrad. I went to SFU, and that was quite a few years back now. And I did a double joint major with psychology and women's studies. And at that point, like I was really passionate. I really wanted to get my PhD done, and I thought this was just going to be a straight, track. However, it wasn't. There,
Yeah.
there was a lot that came up for me after my around when I was finishing with family. There's a lot of
Mm.
pain, so there was an interruption
Yeah. Okay.
in my path.
And and that's very usual, right? Everyone gets through it, right? So yeah.
And so I, as a lot of students do, I started working.
Yeah.
And I actually was working in the food and beverage industry. As psychology students,
Okay.
a lot of us do, because we get to
Yeah.
talk to people. It's a little bit of sales. However, then I started to get to a point where I'm like, this is not me. I'm not aligned. This is not my purpose, how I want to
Yeah.
contribute to society. I don't want to be selling
Yeah.
burgers and fries.
Hmm.
Then I looked at VCC and they had some counseling courses. I'm like, well, before starting a master's, let's see if I actually like this. Is it
Mm-hmm.
for me? And around that time, I started volunteering. So I started volunteering with the Fraser Health Crisis Line. And any
Okay.
students out there, that's a great place to volunteer because you
Okay.
get a lot of experience talking to people in crisis situations. They actually provide this great training as well. And then, the references to get into grad school, it can be very helpful. So, yes,
Mm-hmm.
with the crisis line. And then I took some courses, and then I finally got into my master's program at Adler.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then now I'm working as a mental health practitioner.
That's
I'm an
awesome.
AP counselor, and I actually am still with the crisis line. I oversee volunteers doing calls.
Mhm. That's awesome. No, thank you for your service. I've seen your Instagram channel, and I believe the Instagram channel, the handle is the.wellness.dialogues.
Yes,
Correct?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, I've seen great content, and it's very inspiring and it's motivating, specifically at this point of time where we are, you know, these are uncertain times and the world is going through a lot, and everyone is saying the world will never be same again, right? So definitely, I would highly recommend everyone to go to your channel and take a look at it. And it's awesome to see somebody, from the community doing such good community work and, representing us as well. So, um, as you said, you've been, mental health practitioner. Do you see a lot of international students from India or Brazil or China who are actually your clients now, or who come for counseling, or who come to see you for any guidance?
Yeah, I have had several students throughout the years as I was, going through my practicum work and now in counseling. And yeah, there is a lot of loneliness that we have with international students. And even I was going through my degree, we had some international students, and, going through a program, not knowing anyone else that's your
Yeah,
friends that you grew up with, and not having those deep connections, and entering these classrooms having to make connections.
that's right.
it's,
Yeah.
it's another layer to add
It
on
is.
top.
I've been there. I've seen
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's tough. I'll add, it's just not challenging at a academic level. It's very challenging at a mental and emotional level. When you come from a very protected environment back from India, or I would say Brazil, the traditional values are very similar. I actually had a lot of Brazilian friends as well. So, their parents raised them the same way like our parents, brown parents do. So, you come from such protected environment, and then suddenly you are in open sky. You don't just have to study, you have to work. Plus, you have to do everything, from laundry to kitchen work to everything, from
Yeah.
cooking, yeah, taking care of yourself, which is definitely a good thing to learn when you are a kid. But I think with the culture and tradition we have been raised with, I have seen that not a lot of international students from India get a chance to do it, or they tend to do it when they are in India, which becomes a problem. Of course, I'm one of the examples. So when I came to Canada, though I know cooking very well, I will cook rarely because I just don't feel like cooking. Because back in India, it's you have everything pre-prepared, and then you just cook, and then you leave everything on the shelves. I mean, I always tell my parents now that I wish you were a little strict about how to take care of the house, or how to do my laundry, or how to iron my shirt. And I did my MBA, so I used to wear a lot of suits, and I always had trouble going back to the dry cleaners, getting my shirt ironed and my suits ironed. So definitely it's just so much pressure. And then I think another thing which I've seen from the community is now people have they have been supporting their cousins and nephews who are coming from India. But I've also seen that a lot of majority does not, which can be painful, right? So because when you come to Canada, you get a support for, let's say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you're on your own. So yeah.
Isolating from what you're telling me, and on top of that, that self-care, learning how to do all those essential things,
Hmm.
tiring, you're
It is.
exhausted, I could imagine.
That's right. And you're not working back in India because there's no part-time jobs, right? So suddenly and I actually came after my BTech, and I did my engineering, and then I worked for 4 years. I had my own food catering company, and then I came. So I've been working. I know how to take care of myself. The students who are coming now, they are they come after grade 12. So they're hardly 16, 17-year old. They have never done any work. They are not sure how to, cope up with two different things. One is work and one is school. So it definitely becomes very overwhelming. And I do get a chance to talk to a lot of people, and students have the same issue. They say it's overwhelming for them coming from India and then have never worked. Suddenly we are in an environment where it's all about go, go, go. And they never get a chance to relieve themselves from that pressure, or give themselves that space, because even after their studies, then there is a pressure of work permit, because in that 3 years of work permit, you have to work 1 year
Right.
straight, and then you have to apply for your permanent residency, and then there's a stress of permanent residency. And then once you're there, then you kind of be like, okay, I think I got there. But then by then you have already adopted so much of pressure on yourself from work and from your family. Then other things kind of add on. You're 16, 17 when you come here. By 2020, 21, 22, 23, you get your PR. And then by 26, 27, there's a pressure from the family. Why don't you get married? So I think it's just go, go, go. And then you want to buy a house, you want to buy a good car, you want to bring your family back from India. So I think you're right, and I'm sure your job becomes pretty hard as well when it comes to international students, right?
Yeah, I think I hear all the pressures, and then it becomes self-pressure because you're on your own trying
Yeah.
to do all of this, and you're
Yeah.
taking all of this in.
That's true. So
I
so thank you. So my last question for the day would be, how to cope up with the isolation during this quarantine time with coronavirus and COVID situation. What would you recommend? I remember we were talking about breathing last time we connected on phone. So
Yeah.
how do you cope up with the isolation during these unprecedented times?
So if we take a step back and look at the anxiety in total, maybe first, because this
Mm-hmm.
is a very anxious time, there's uncertainty and grief. We're grieving what we thought our months were going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of anxiety that's coming through. And like you were speaking earlier, I really liked how you talked about that self care piece. So I'd like to take a moment and just take it a step back to the basics, the foundation of wellness. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with your sleep? So that's
Okay.
something that you want to check in with yourself. Are you able to get those 7 to 8 hours? If not, what is going on? Do you have the thoughts? Are they worries?
Mm-hmm.
It can be helpful to get out of the bed if you're not sleeping and
Okay.
try to do something like the deep breathing that. Why don't you tell us about your deep breathing that you do, the meditation?
Yeah, so I actually I used to have the same issues. I finished my MBA from Canada. I started working for a bank, and
Mm,
then from one job to other, I jumped up to a different job where I just started feeling that there was a lot of pressure internally. And one of the things I've seen that, when you are at a position where you hardly see any international student, so you see a bit of a jealousy and a bit of a, I won't say hate, but a bit of a um, J factor, I would say, again, jealousy from a lot of people who have been in those roles. That how come somebody who came from India 3 years ago is suddenly sitting next to
right.
me, and
Yeah.
it's very unfortunate to say that I have seen actually, our own community, doing that. So I remember I was going through this tough time, and I got a chance to connect with my girlfriend, and then she's like, hey, why don't you try counseling? So I went to see a counselor, and she told me about breathing, and I was still not taking it that seriously. So I
Right.
came across a book which was written by a monk, and the name of the book is Happiness. So it's not a story, it's not a novel. It's actually a book that talks about how to be happy. And page one is actually about breathing. So one of the biggest pieces I've taken from that book is basically when you're anxious or when you are having tough time understanding what's happening around me, close your eyes and just breathe in and breathe out and focus on it. So when you're breathing in, you actually have to realize that there's air going through your nostrils and to your lungs. And
Mm,
then when you're exhaling, you have to know that it's actually going out, and it does wonders. I every time I do it, I smile. So it brings smile on my face. My anxiety is gone now, you know. And I think with so much happening in my life at that point, I was able to you know do better what I would have done without practicing that breathing. So yeah, it was a great experience, and I actually got it from a book, so
yeah.
which is awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up. So we just talked about sleep, and that relaxation piece is the next piece that's very important to our wellness. So being
Okay.
able to slow down, like you just told us,
Okay.
and being able to be present in this moment. So when the anxiety goes, we're going up here, we're sometimes going a mile a minute. What
Hmm.
if this happens? What if that happens?
Yeah.
I'm not good enough comes up a lot for a lot of us.
Yeah, exactly. That's
So
true.
yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe flipping that and being like, I am good enough. And
Mm.
saying that to ourselves as we're practicing the breathing and
Okay.
being in this moment, because all of that anxiety up there, it's disturbing our peace with
That
ourselves.
that's very strong. You're right. So I'm gonna just re-say what you said. So sleep is very important. Breathing is very important. Self-care and talking to yourself and telling yourself when you're having negative thoughts that you're not good enough, that actually you are good enough, and saying that. And I think that's so true. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. And the next piece, there's a few more pieces here.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
nutrition, what's going on
Yeah.
with nutrition? When we're
Okay.
in moments of stress, like this pandemic, we reach for sugar, we
Yes.
reach for
I
processed
do.
food.
Yeah, I'm the guilty one here. Yeah. Yeah.
Me too. It happens to all of us.
Mm.
I'm working a lot of overtime right now. And
Mm.
carbs, processed carbs, and refined
Yeah.
white carbs. And
Hmm.
what happens in our gut bacteria is it starts to send signals up to our brain, craving more of that type of food. So there's a
Okay.
direct impact now with what we're putting in our bodies.
Okay.
When
So
we're in,
would you highly recommend home cooked food?
absolutely,
Okay.
like
More
you're eating,
greens.
yes, and
Okay.
proteins, like you're eating, what do you eat, dal or what is,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
lentils,
Yeah.
whatever you use for proteins, your vegetables, and water is
Mhm.
another that a lot of people forget, and they're
Yes.
drinking pop or they're drinking a lot of tea in the day and they're not hydrating. This is
Yeah.
all going to impact what's going on up here.
My girlfriend's gonna have a giggle when she listens to this because I actually tend to drink. I used to drink a lot of pop, and now she doesn't. She wants me to stop, and thanks to her that I've been able to cut it down now. And you know what? You're absolutely right. So since this has started, I have actually not eaten out, not even a single time. What we have been doing is we have been cooking a lot ourselves.
Mhm.
So pizzas, we try pizza because that's something everyone craves a lot. And
Right.
apparently it was very good. And then we tried some Indian dishes. And I think slowly and steadily, if you know a bit of basic cooking, you can always, saute some veggies and, add some proteins, as you said, dal or cheese or paneer to
Yeah.
make it healthy enough to kind of have that, you know, help that with the immunity, but also lower down that craving, as you mentioned, because yes, you do get a lot of craving. Yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
and now another pillar of
Yeah.
wellness is movement.
Movement.
That's
Okay.
when a lot of people are like, oh, the word exercise scares them or
Yeah.
something. But
Yeah.
we need movement for our mental wellness and our physical wellness.
Highly
And
recommend it. Yeah.
yeah, I remember you were talking about nature and walks. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So for me, as I said, pop food goes to my girlfriend. Nature walks again goes to her. She's the queen. What I've been doing, and thanks to her again, we have been going for running every day. You know,
Wow. Okay.
we found. I'm not gonna tell where. We don't want anyone else to be there. It's empty, so we found a space where it's grass. We don't want to run on the road. One, it's not safe. Second, it's just not good for your knees. That's what I have felt I've experienced in my past. So we found this green patch, and what we do is it's as big as a soccer ground, and we do 5 rounds. So we started with 5 rounds, and our target is to touch 10 by the end of this month, or let's say mid of next month. And on the weekends, what we do is we do long walks. So today we did 4 kilometers. So I think it was 11,000 steps today. So the target is to have 6,000 steps every day. And weekends, we just give ourselves a bit of a break from running, and we go out and, we went for, and there are actually a lot of trails which are not that busy. People are very cautious with the social distancing, and they
Yeah.
have been doing it very well. I'll be very honest. We never had anybody who would not follow the rules or who would be, ignorant about this specific situation. So I highly, highly recommend, as you mentioned, movement, go for runs or go for long walks, whatever works for you. Have a target, do 6,000, 5,000 steps. So we started with 3,000 steps.
Yeah.
Then we are at 6,000 now. I slowly raise it, and it's been going really good for us, and keeps ourselves sane. Though I think everyone isolation does catch you at a certain point.
Mhm.
We snap at it all. We snap at each other all the time. So I think, and that's what helps you. This running and going out in nature helps you with that a lot. Hmm.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you brought that up. I definitely hear the gratitude and appreciation you have for your girlfriend, and
She's
that's
awesome.
amazing.
She's
Yeah,
awesome.
to
She's
hear.
sitting right here by the top of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so YouTube is another place.
Yeah.
There's Zumba or dance,
Okay. Yeah.
yoga. And
Yeah.
if you're not, a beginner, there's
Yeah.
actually even like 10-minute yoga videos you can
You
look up.
got it. And I think it's funny that we are from India. That's where yoga was. That's where yoga was, or that's where it originated. So we should be
Absolutely.
doing it every day. I
Yeah.
come from a school where yoga was compulsory, and we used to have Saturday classes, which were boring. I'll be very honest. But last year we did join a yoga session for a month, and I was actually able to do some of the chakras which I learned when I was a kid. So, and you're right, it is such a good way to make your lungs work, and make your boost up your immunity. And with those greens and proteins you're adding in your diet, this is definitely going to help. Absolutely, I completely agree.
And
Hmm.
now we've got the pillars of the things we do for ourselves, but you were speaking about how isolating this is.
Yeah.
So let's reach out. Let's reach out to our families. Let's reach out to our friends.
Mhm.
And what have you been doing to stay
So
connected?
Yeah, so I've been constantly in touch with my friends, and this is that time I've actually texted all my friends. I lived in UK for a while, so I've actually text friends from UK, back in India, my school friends, and even their parents as well. So it was my uncle's birthday today, so I called him in the morning. So what I've been doing is I've been constantly, if I cannot do FaceTime, I definitely send them a text or WhatsApp, making sure that they hear from you. Have I made a family group where we all are connected now, so somebody keeps sending something, and then it gives you the moment of the day where you feel happy about that everyone is safe, and you feel you
So
know
good text.
it is, and you know that your parents are in good shape, and they're safe, right? So I highly recommend, as you mentioned, reaching out to parents every day. Maybe just send them a text if you cannot call them. We are 12 hours apart, and I get it that a lot of parents do tend to sleep early back in India,
Mm,
and by the time we are free at night, they're already doing their own thing, and you want to go for sleep. But sending a text usually takes less than a minute. So send some text, say hi, how are you, and let them know that you're doing fine and what your day looked like. And
yeah, and imagine they're really worried too. They're
oh,
so
they are.
from the
Yeah,
students. And yeah,
yeah.
is your family back in India as well?
Yeah, that's right. My parents are still back in India. That's right. And they are worried. Yeah, every time I call them, my mother keeps repeating, "Don't go out, don't go out." Like she says it 10 times in that 1 minute. And I get it. And I do the same. When I talk to them, I tell them, "Do not go out, though India is in lockdown, but please don't go out, even for the smallest thing. Maybe tell somebody that they can bring it to you, or order it online, or do something that you do not have to step out of the house." Hmm.
Yeah, even our groceries, we can order them online.
You got it. Yeah, even in India, all the stores in India are now doing deliveries, so which is good. And I can't speak on what's happening in smaller towns and smaller villages, but if it's a suburban town, or it's a smaller suburb, you can still find somebody who can deliver it to your house. So absolutely, and even here, we have been very careful with when we go out for shopping or grocery, have our mask on, have our gloves on, keep that sanitizer in your pocket, make sure you clean your hand, clean your cart, whatever groceries you're bringing in the home, we make sure that we actually sanitize them again with a Lysol wipe or something. So, keeping that, t- one of the things my brother was saying, and I'm bringing in while we were talking about how to stay connected, is, this is time for us to know where our hands are going. What
Mhm.
are you touching, and are they going back to your face? Because we are so used to doing this, and I'm an example. I used to touch my mustache quite a bit, and
Mm.
now it's been last 3 months I've learned so well that I'm keeping my hands in my pocket. Even though I know that I've not touched anything, I still don't touch it until I come back home, properly wash my hand for 20 seconds, and
Mm.
then touch my face. So I think it's very important for us to know what's happening around us.
Yeah, so having that awareness and maybe being a little bit vigilant about,
Hmm.
you know, what we're touching and keeping our hands washed.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So tell me a bit more about how are you doing? What have you been doing? I know you're working,
Yeah, I'm
so
working a
thank
lot.
thanks for your service. You guys are doing great job. My brother is a doctor, so he's on front line as well. So thank you for all the service. But when you come home, so is it more meditation, or is it, connecting back to your family, or do you live with your family?
I have two dogs.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I constantly having to go out in nature, and that's what's keeping me sane because I'm working up to 60 hours a week right now.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So just
Mm.
connecting with that nature, and my dogs aren't super friendly with other dogs, so we always keep the distance
Yeah.
anyways. So I'm
Yeah.
used to that. But like you're saying, going out, it's really restorative for our minds. It's great for our cognition,
Mm.
and it just helps us relieve that stress. I mean, you can go on Google Scholar. There's tons of articles
You're
about
right. You're right. You're
benefits
right.
of nature. So
That's
that's kind of
awesome.
what's keeping me sane.
That's awesome, Jesse.
Yeah.
You know what? It's a pleasure talking to you today. So, what this is that it's a start of a friendship. So we'll keep connecting. I'm gonna post this on my social media and then get back to you and see what students have question. And maybe, next time we can involve students as well. Maybe if there is somebody who have questions, we can do a conference call and see what are their issues, because I'm past that time, but maybe
Right.
there are new issues now. Maybe something new has showed up, with one of the things I've noticed, and maybe we can discuss it in our second video call, is losing their jobs because of businesses being shut down. So I think maybe we can connect with somebody who is going through this time,
Okay.
and maybe a girl and a boy, and see what are their issues and what are they doing. Are they even doing anything to cope up with it? Or if they are doing something, and I hope they are, what
Yeah.
are they doing and how can we help them, right? So yeah, do you have anything to say before we end this?
I'm gonna give an anxiety resource because all of this, it's uncertainty. It's if we're
Mm.
losing our jobs, so much uncertainty, and
Yeah,
it's scary.
that's
And
true. Yeah.
anxiety is, it's we're worried, we're in a state of fear, and we're all communally, we're globally in a state of fear. So
Hmm.
the Canadian website,
Oh, okay.
it's Anxiety
Anxiety
Canada.
Canada.
Can you read that? It's
Yeah,
just www.
www.anxietycanada.com, just like the words ANXIETYCANADA.com. Okay, perfect.
Lots of modules. There's
Yeah.
PDFs. I give them to
Okay.
clients. Deep breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation. There's so many resources on there.
No, thank you so much for that. That I think that added cherry on the top for the whole meeting. So yeah, again, thank you so much, Jesse. I will stay connected. We will stay connected, and once I hear back from the people I'm connected with, and we can introduce them to you and see what we can do for them.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Stay
Thank you
safe.
so
Take
much.
care.
Yeah.
Ciao,
Take
ciao.
care. Bye.
Bye.